let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our God, our Maker. Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our God, our Maker. For He is our God, and we are the people of His pasture, and the sheep of His hand, and the sheep of His hand. Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our God, our Maker. Come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our God, our Maker. For He is our God, and we are the people of His pasture, and the sheep of His hand, and the sheep of His hand. I will enter His gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter His courts with praise. I will say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for He has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for He has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for He has made me glad. Even in the midst of times like this, we can rejoice because He has made us glad. Sorry, I didn't know there was a video. I apologize.
Amen. Happy Mother's Day. It is great to see everybody here. It is so good to be back together. It really is. We want to share that we're trying to do our best to adhere to the government's policies while still meeting and having a good time. And so we're encouraging everybody to be here, to enjoy. As y'all know, as you saw me going around, I'm doing elbow bumps. We're trying to avoid hugging and kissing and some handshakes. And you know me, I'm a hugger, and I'm not afraid. So if you give me a hug, I'll give you one back. But we're kind of trying to discourage that a little bit. Trying to keep two seats between family units. We pushed our seats back a little bit. So if you feel like you're a long ways away from everybody, just remember you weren't this close before. Right? All right. And we do want to say Happy Mother's Day. I want to say a great big thank you to all the mothers. And I want to say Happy Mother's Day. And you probably won't get to go to the restaurant. It's a different world. So now you get to go home, but hopefully your husband is cooking for you. Which means, in my case, we're stopping by the restaurant to pick up the food to go home on our way home. All right. We want to rejoice with the Hawkins, Chase and Jory, on the birth of Tyler Wade. Yep, picture's up. Was born Friday afternoon. The last word I got, everybody was doing good, and they are hoping to get to go home this afternoon. So, really good news. If you wanted to participate in the shower, we're doing a mail-in shower, so you can mail in your gift to them with the address that is in the directory. We've had several questions about giving. So, we are giving you the information, if we can, right now. If you don't write it down right now, it'll be up during the communion again, during the offering again, so you can write this down. But you can give here. We're going to pass the plate, so that makes it easy if you're here. We are live streaming this. For those who are live streaming it, if you want to bring it by the office and turn it into the office, you're welcome to do that. Or you can mail it to the P.O. box, and we'll get it and we'll take care of it then. Or you can go to our web page, and there will be a link there to a secure site for giving. You will have to follow the instructions and set up your own account, and then nobody else will know your information or anything. It's well protected. Our elders have spent quite some time, our elders in Trevin, getting this secure and making sure that we can do this effectively. So if you want to give online, you can go to the web page and click that link. Or there's an app for everything. We now have the Westside app. Now you can get that, and it will have a link where you can give also. We have instructions on how to get and set up that app. They're available on the little table in the foyer on the left as you go right outside these doors, and it's got the information on it. If you have any questions about it, you can see Jason. Jason is with his mom this morning, and so he's not here this morning. But if you'll call Jason Simmons, he can work you through this, and you can give online. There is a third option there. You can go to securesubsplash.com. secure.subsplash.com, and you can get that information, follow the instructions, and set it up there. As I was looking at it, it's a whole bunch easier for me to go to the web page and get it, or go to the app and get it, than to go to this site, because that got confusing. But that is available. So there are several ways if you want to continue to give and would like an easy route to do that. We've tried to set that up for you. Again, if you need that information, if you'll see me, or it will be up during the offering again to where you can get it. We love you. You notice that our bulletin is different. We're probably next week going to try to go back to a regular bulletin, but in the meantime, there is a bunch of information that is not in there. We want to give you this as updates, ongoing treatments. Jewel Blicker is still doing her treatments, and so we want to continue to remember her. John Lowe is here this morning. He is no longer radioactive, and this is awesome. But we want to continue to remember him. He's had some tests and awaiting those results. Mary Gordon is still at home, still suffering with her back pain. They are still not able to get into the doctor, even though they have started opening things up. It'll be a while for her, so we want to continue to remember her. If you have any other announcements or anything, please call the office. Let us know. We are back to normal operating schedule as far as office hours are concerned for Tina and I. So you can call the office and get that information to us. We're here 8 to 2, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, except when we're not. And you know that because we go visit and do things. But you can get to the office and get us that information. Again, we're so glad that you're here, that we're all back together, at least in some form.
On bended knee I come, with a humble heart I come, bowing down before your holy throne, lifting holy hands to you, as I pledge my love anew. I worship you. look upon your face. Show your mercy and your grace. Change my life, oh Holy Spirit. Make me fresh and ever new. Make my life a holy sacrifice to you. I once was lost in sin, but Jesus took me in, and did a little light from heaven fill my soul. It made my heart in love and wrote my name above. And just a little talk with Jesus makes me whole. Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. Let us tell him all about our troubles. He will hear and he will answer. Now when you feel as your heart is turning, you will find that Jesus makes it right. I may have doubts and fears, my eyes be filled with tears, but Jesus is a friend who watches day and night. I go to him in prayer, he knows my every care, and just a little talk with Jesus makes it right. Now let us have a little talk with Jesus, and let us tell him all about our trouble. Oh, he will hear our prayers, and he will answer. Now when you feel as your heart is turning, you will find that Jesus makes it right.
Let us all pray this morning. Our Father, we are so grateful, thankful that we are able to continually have more free time to pray, to come closer to you, to be out in nature, Father, just to see your touch in you in everything that is happening. Father, we would truly rejoice this morning with those that are walking more upright with greater cheer, Father, because we know that they are following your advice and growing closer to you. Father, be with all of us this morning as we continue our service. Continually help draw us closer to you as well, Father. Again, thank you so much for all the healing, for all of your touch as we follow you, Father, as we grow closer, and as we walk with you hand in hand. Thank you, Father, this morning. In your Son's name, amen.
Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees, with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Let us drink the cup together on our knees. Let us drink the cup together on our knees. When I fall on my knees, with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Let us praise God together on our knees. Let us praise God together on all I need. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me.
This morning, if you weren't here last week, we're going to do communion just a little bit different than the way we normally do it. We have some disposable cups that we're going to be passing for communion, and you won't put your cup back in the tray. Once you get it, you'll just hold it, and we'll come back to you in just a moment with a trash can, and you'll place the plastic cup back in the trash can. But for any of you that weren't here last week, the bread is on top of the cup. When you get your cup, it has a tab on one side. You press the tab down, and there's a clear plastic panel over the bread. Pull the clear plastic panel off, and then you'll be able to get your bread. Then there's another full panel right over the top of the cup. You'll peel it off, and then you'll be able to access the juice after that. So and if you have any trouble, and this is hard to do, they're kind of tricky a little bit. If you have any trouble and you aren't able to do it, we'll just raise your hand, and we have some cups with a piece of bread in it and some juice. We'll bring that to you, and you'll be able to use that. But you will hold that cup and that plastic juice tray also until we bring the trash can back and you place it in there. We're trying to follow the guidelines and not place anything back in the trays once we're done. So it's going to be a little bit different. Just bear with us.
Will you pray with me? Father, this morning we're thankful for the opportunity we have to come together at this time to remember, to participate in the Lord's Supper, to remember what you've done on our behalf. Father, as we break the bread, take the cup, we do remember what you've done for us. And we're thankful for it. And we thank you, Lord, for Jesus and all that he's done. prepare to take the offering. Father, this morning we're thankful, Lord, that we have this opportunity to give. And Father, we pray as we give, this will be used in a manner that will honor you and everything. And Father, it will bless us, and we thank you for the privilege. Bless this offering as I pray in Jesus' name.
Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing His mercy and His grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, He'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. While we walk the pilgrim's pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sigh. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of Him in glory. like there are flowing, and all the bruising will be free. Rare jewels of splendor are glowing. How beautiful heaven must be. How beautiful heaven must be. Sweet home of happy and free. Fair haven of rest for the weary. How beautiful heaven must be.
Morning. Again. All right, I was sitting next to Amber and I told her, I said, I'm really nervous. It's been way too long since I've been up here. So hopefully this will be good. I want to talk a little bit about reunions. You know, there are all kinds of reunions. There's high school reunions. I have never been to mine. It's in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I have no desire to go back. Never have. I know I had friends back then. You probably remember your high school friends. I remember one. After that, it's a blur. There are college reunions. They can be fun. Tina and I hardly ever go to ours. There's just too much going on. We're busy, we're working, we're doing family. It's just hard to go back, and besides, why would I want to go back there? It's changed. It's different. And so, not a big on that. But now, family reunions. Family reunions are special. They're lots of fun. You get to be with people you haven't been with in a while now. With the invention of Zoom, and Skype, and things like that, you get to talk to people. It's just not the same. It's not the same as being there in person. You get to meet new people. There have been additions. You have new nephews and uncles and nieces and aunts and all sorts of relations that you had no idea. And so it's fun. It is interesting that today family reunions are kind of sliding back down. Everybody's so busy and we're far apart. And so it's hard to get the whole family together like it used to be a little easier. And so as a result, we have started using funerals as family reunions, haven't we? Somebody dies, we all get together, and yes, we're sad at the event, but it's an opportunity to get to know everybody again, and they've kind of become the new family reunion. There are also some very special reunions. Reunions that mean more to us than we can express in words. And this morning I want us to examine one very special reunion that took place literally several thousand years ago. And the reason I want us to examine that reunion is because it has implications for us today. Jacob is an interesting character in the book of Genesis. He is portrayed in the writings of Moses in stark terms. We get to see many characteristics, we get to see many talents that he had, and it describes his use of those things. He uses them to his advantage on several occasions. And so, on the positive side, Jacob was blessed by God. He used his talents to help his family and to do things for himself. He becomes an influence wherever he goes, and he grows in riches. He does some good things there. On the negative side, he creates an atmosphere around him that is kind of selfish. It's focused on himself. And so he ends up with a lot of problems. He ends up with a lot of struggle in his life that he might have avoided had he not been aimed just at himself. You know, one thing about Scripture is that it's brutally honest. It will tell us the characters, and it will describe the good things that they've done and how God has used them, but it will also describe their mistakes, their errors, and specifically their sin. It's very honest when it comes to their description. And the same thing is true with Jacob. He is no different. And so we learned that Jacob was selfish. He was a trickster, if you will. He bought his brother's birthright when he caught his brother in a moment of great need. And instead of just meeting that need, he put a condition to it. And so he bought his brother's birthright. When it came time to receive the blessing, he stole it. And he didn't just steal it. You know, when we think of stealing, we think of breaking in and taking something. He didn't do that. He lied to. He deceived his father purposefully to gain the blessing. And later on, he's going to take advantage of his father-in-law in order to get wealth for himself and his family. That's the kind of person Jacob was. But Jacob's actions came back around. You know, that's the way God's justice and God's judgment works. We like to call it, you're sowing what you will reap, right? Well, Jacob had to reap what he had sown. And so for most of his life, he's going to live in fear of his own brother. In fear for his life because of what he did to his brother. His father-in-law gets him back, if you will. He lost a lot of animals and sheep and things to Jacob's wiles. But then it came time for Jacob to get the daughter. He worked 7 years to get her. He woke up in the morning with the wrong one. So he's up with 2 wives and 2 handmaids. And he has a whole parcel of kids. And you talk about, I would not want to ride in the van with 12 sons. It's all I could do to handle 4 children. And he reaped that. And ultimately, it was his family, specifically his children, that are going to cause him the most emotional pain. He lost his favorite wife, Rachel, in childbirth to his youngest son, Benjamin. Rachel's firstborn son, Joseph, will become his favorite child. And Genesis 37:3 records, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a vari-colored tunic. Well, that didn't go over so well with the brothers. You got a favorite. I know who was favored in my family, and it wasn't me. Although they claim, my sisters, that I was. No, it wasn't me. You know, we all look at our families, but when you know that your parents have a favorite and it's not you, it creates some very hard feelings. And that's what they had. And Joseph was, at least in the brothers' sight, arrogant. He had some dreams. Now, they didn't know it at the time, but God gave him some dreams. And he had some dreams that his brothers were going to bow down to him. Even his father was going to bow down to him. Well, that didn't set well with the brothers. It really didn't set too well with Jacob, but he didn't pursue it a lot. But the brothers, they were done with him. And so the day came that the family changed forever. Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the field. They saw him coming, or most of them. They grab him. They decide, we're going to finish this. We're going to kill him. So they throw him in the pit. One of the brothers said, yeah, slow down, wait. We need to get rid of him, but, Well, that brother left. And they had their opportunity. Some traders came by. So they sold him. They were done with him. He was gone. He was dead to them forever. They'd never see him again. So they take his coat, they soak it in blood, and they get it back to Dad so that Dad will understand a wild animal got him. He's dead. He's gone. But something happened that the brothers didn't count on. You know, that's the best laid plans, right? I can plan something really great for Tina, and it didn't turn out to be so great in her eyes. How could I get it wrong? Well, the brother got it wrong. They expected their dad to grieve and to be upset at the loss of Joseph, but they didn't expect the wild reaction that they got. Because the day that he learned that he thought Joseph was dead, something died inside of him. The brothers expected we'd grieve for 30 days, 60 days, maybe a little longer than that, but ultimately Joseph is going to get better, Jacob is going to get better, and we're going to move on. It'll be great. Didn't happen. Jacob never got over the loss of Joseph. It devastated him, and something inside him died. But time did march on. The family basically stayed together. Oh, there were lots of problems. There was lots of struggles that went on within this family while they were in Canaan. But they did remain together until the day of the great famine. And when the great famine came, food got scarce. It got so scarce, there wasn't food for the animals. And so the food for the humans is drying up. And everybody knows it's bad. People are dying. People are going to die. It's bad. But they hear that there is a source of food. I find it interesting that people learned real quick that when the toilet paper disappeared, they knew exactly when Sam's was going to put it out. And I'm telling you, that line went forever. Right? Well, people learned there was food, not at Walmart, in Egypt. And so Jacob sends his sons to get some food so that they can live. Unknowingly, the brothers stand before Joseph. They don't recognize, he recognizes them, but he's changed big time. So they don't recognize him. They don't have a clue the danger they're in. They don't realize just how much things have changed because of the famine. For Joseph, opportunity. This is an opportunity. He's going to get to learn about his family and how it's doing. He's going to get to learn about how many nieces and nephews he's got and all of that stuff. But they can't hurt him anymore. He's got the whole Egyptian army at his disposal. These guys are in no place to say anything. And he can do whatever he wants. Time for revenge. If nothing else, time for some fun. These guys are going to rue the day. Well, that's a fun study, and I'd like to stop the camp there because of the opportunities that were there for Joseph that he didn't take. Drives me crazy. If I got a chance to get my sisters. Right? You would too. But he didn't. But what I want us to see is what comes next. Because Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers. And then he makes arrangements for his father and his entire family to be brought down to Egypt so that he can take care of it. Now, Joseph's got to stay in Egypt. I mean, he's in charge of the famine relief effort. He can't leave. He's got to oversee this. So instead, he gathers up some wagons and he fills them with supplies and he says, you go back and you take care and you bring the family, including Dad, back here. So the brothers take off. And in Genesis 45, and beginning in verse 25, we read, then they went up from Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob. They told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and indeed he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. But he was stunned, for he did not believe them. Oh, no, you don't walk in here and lie through your teeth like that. Right? My son told me after he was in college something he did in high school, and I was ready to kill him. You don't tell me you did that. You weren't supposed to find out about it. What do you think was going through Joseph's heart? Jacob's heart, sorry. When they told him all the words of Joseph that he had spoken to them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the the spirit of their father Jacob revived. Then Israel said, "It is enough. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." One of the things a reunion does is it creates a resurrection. It's a kind of resurrection. It's not a physical resurrection back to life, but it is a kind of resurrection. What had died in Jacob when he got the news that Joseph had been torn up by this animal came back alive. I still wonder how long he chased those boys around with his cane, beating them. I would really like to have been in the camp that night and the nights all along the trail while they were going to Egypt when they stopped to eat dinner. What was that conversation like? When Jacob realized his sons had been lying to him all this time. We're not told about those discussions. We're not told what feelings went on there. But now Joseph, who was dead to the entire family, especially to Jacob, is alive. And they're all going to get to see him, touch him, and be in his presence once again. There are all kinds of concerns that had to be there when it comes to this reunion. The brothers had a whole bunch to fear. They really did. And they're going to count on Joseph not to exact revenge, not to do anything as long as their father is there. But the day he dies, they're worried about that moment from get-go. And we'll see that later in the story because they're still going to be afraid when Jacob does die. So they had much to be afraid of. Not only that, they moved. Remember, Joseph moved them from Canaan to Egypt. They can't even get away. There's nothing they can do. It's Joseph. And they're afraid. But they're not the only ones who had concerns. Jacob had much reason to be concerned too. This is a long journey, and he's old. Tina and I have moved a lot. We moved here, and Tina said, "I'm home." We built the house, and she said, "I'm home." So if you fire me, I don't get to move. Okay? We're home. This is home. We're tired. My mom and dad moved from Vegas to down near Austin. And then some things happened, and I told him, I said, "Well, you could move up by me." And my dad looked at me with these eyes, and I knew the answer. He's not moving again. There comes a point where no more moving. We're here. And that's where Jacob was. But not. Things changed. And now he's got to move to a different country, not just to a different place, to a completely different country. There's a lot of dangers on that trip for him and for the family. And there's some real danger when they get to Egypt. He doesn't know what Joseph is feeling. He hasn't seen or talked to Joseph. He doesn't know what that situation is going to be like. There's a lot of things that could rip this family to shreds when they get to Egypt. So there's a lot of concern. And so Genesis 46 and verse 1 records, "So Israel set out with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, 'Jacob, Jacob.' And he said, 'Here I am.' He said, 'I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. Joseph will close your eyes.'" Jacob needed some reassurance. Things change so quickly. Boy, they do, don't they? Fast. And nothing will ever be the same again. His son, who has been acclaimed to him, has been dead for all these years, but now he's alive. Jacob has discovered that his sons have kept a lie from him for years, an important lie. Even though they saw his pain, even though they saw his struggle, they didn't tell the truth. And now he's having to leave his home, go to a new country. And so God gives him some reassurance through a vision. And I find it very interesting that he didn't get the reassurance before he left home. Did you notice that? He travels and he comes to Beersheba. And when he gets to Beersheba, then God reassures him. And that is true with faith, brothers and sisters. If you are waiting for enough faith to be able to get out and serve God, you are never going to do it. Period. It won't happen. Can't happen. Why? Because God is looking for faith. When you step out in faith, your faith will grow. God will reassure you. God will give you the faith you need. But you've got to show that you got faith. Folks, if you're waiting for all the ducks to be lined up before you shoot, you're going to be hungry tonight. You've got to step out in faith. And that's what happened with him. Faith begets faith. And so after receiving the vision and some assurance from God, they continue on their journey and they finally come to the land of Goshen. It's in Egypt. It's the spot Joseph picked out for them. It's the best spot for them in all of Egypt. And Joseph has them set up in a great place. And then Genesis 46, verse 29. Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as he appeared before him, he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a long time. Then Israel said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive." What a reunion that reunion was. For the first time in years, father and son are holding one another. They can enjoy fellowship like they haven't been able to enjoy for years and years. What a beautiful sight it must have been. I wonder, what were the brothers thinking? You ever have one of those awkward moments? Somebody goes and sees somebody and they get a hug and it just lasts and it lasts and it lasts. What do you say? Do you leave? Do you look away? It's one of those awkward times for the brothers. What were they feeling? What were they thinking? Did they have more feelings of jealousy? Were they still scared? Were they glad in their hearts? What were they feeling? And what about the rest of the family, the nephews and the nieces? And they're like, this is awkward. What were they feeling? We don't have a clue. We're not told what they were. But we are told what Jacob was feeling. We know exactly what he felt. Because in his heart, nothing else mattered. I can die now. This is right. This is fantastic. I can die now. The best thing that could have happened in this life has occurred. And nothing else mattered. But the story's not over. That reunion, though, is what I wanted us to see closely. Because sometimes things happen in this life that disrupt normal family fellowship. And it disrupts it in a big way. Sometimes, well, that's not really true. Usually, sin is involved in some way. And families break apart, or families are not able to get together for whatever reason. And for some reason, you always trace that back to some sin. But when the reunion occurs, and sometimes it does on this earth, it is a powerful reunion. And all of a sudden, the things that matter really don't matter anymore. Whose fault was it? What kind of problem caused this? What did you do to mess this up? What can we do to prevent it from happening again? Oh, on the questions go. And sometimes those questions are asked, usually by a person that has a problem forgiving. But the reality is, none of that matters anymore. Don't even think about it. We move on with our lives and we start taking care of one another and we rebuild the fellowship that used to be there. Because we love our God and we love His family and we love our family. And because we're looking forward to a different reunion, one that is yet to happen, the one that will occur when Jesus comes back to get His own. Our reunions on this earth don't match up to anything like that one will be. Because when that happens, there will never again be a separation, because there will never again be sin. There will never be fear. There will never be agendas. There will never be a political agenda or politics, period. What a reunion that will be. Jacob and Joseph dealt with a lot of things in their lives. But don't you know that both of them would say that moment when they saw each other and hugged each other's necks was one of the highlights of their entire life. Dead to one another, resurrected to one another once again. Best hug ever. Only one reunion will be better, brothers and sisters. When Jesus comes back to gather His family, and He gathers everyone up, and we go to be with Him. It won't happen if you're not in His family, brothers and sisters. If you're not in His family, friends, we will share with you how to do it. If you know how to do it and you hadn't done it, we'll fix it today. Oh yeah, and the black sheep. You know who the black sheep is at your family reunion, right? You know. And for some of us, right? We're the black sheep. Well, in the Lord's family, there are some black sheep. People who have decided to do it their own way. People who have decided to do whatever they want to do and hope that God will come along with them. Brothers and sisters, it's not too late. And you can be a part of that great resurrection where God's family in full comes together if you will return to Jesus. Repent of your sin. And in whatever way that we can help you this morning, our number one goal is not to get together in this building. It's been great. But I want to be with you in heaven. Won't you come as we stand, as we sing?
I've heard an old story, our Savior came from glory. God gave His life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I've heard about His groaning, of His precious blood that owed me. Then I repented of my sin and won the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is to Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about a mansion He has built for me in glory, old redemption story, and some sweet day I'll sing up there the song of victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is to Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I have this one last song before we have a closing prayer. And sometimes the simplest songs are the best songs, because no matter what's going on, God is good. Amen. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. He cares for me. He cares for me. He cares for me. He's so good to me. I love Him so. I love Him so. I love Him so. He's so good to me. He answers prayers. He answers prayers. He answers prayers. He's so good to me.
Our Heavenly Father, you are so good to us, and Father, it's just beyond our imagination how you could love us so much. Father, we're so thankful for the love that you've shown to us and sending your Son Jesus to take our place on that cross. Father, as we depart here this morning, we pray that you would be with each and every one of us and help us to be the right kind of examples in front of people that we meet on a day-to-day basis. Father, we pray now that you would forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name, amen.